edition of my Pug Fireball and Company podcast, where I focus on America's pastime, both past and present. Are you ready to be entertained, informed, and intrigued by stories of memorable players and epic games? I'm your host, Steve, and today we're talking about my recent experience in Rippey, Iowa, home of Walt Anderson Field. Until about 2 months ago, I had never heard of Rippey, and I've lived in central Iowa for 11 years. That changed when I heard about Bruce Thome, the founder of the Rippey Ruckus. The Rippey Ruckus is a 3-day baseball tournament for adults on Walt Anderson Field in Rippey in late April every year. I was intrigued, so I invited Thome, a distant relative of Baseball Hall of Famer Jim Thome, to be a guest on my podcast. Thome still plays baseball in an adult league and umpires at area high school games. He also goes up to Minneapolis, Minnesota to play baseball occasionally. As it turns out, Urbandale and Webster City high schools were scheduled to play a doubleheader at noon Saturday, May 31st on Walt Anderson Field. I had an author event set up at 10 a.m. at the Rippey Public Library in conjunction with my latest book, Pug Fireball and Company, 116 Years of Professional Baseball in Des Moines, Iowa. The two high schools needed a public address announcer for their games. After Thome apparently couldn't find anyone else to do their games, I agreed to serve as a PA announcer, something I'd never done before. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to be a part of the action on an 85-year-old baseball field. Yes, the field was established in 1940 and served as the home field of the East Green High School Hawks for 50 years until 2012. Just when it appeared that the field wouldn't survive, former high school baseball coach Mel Merkin moved back from retirement in Rippey to be closer to his family. By the way, Merkin wasn't just any baseball coach. His teams at Ankeny High School won more than 600 games in 32 years and captured the 4A title in 1992. After graduating from Drake University in 1965, Merkin got a teaching position at East Green High School, where he also served as baseball coach. He played for the semi-pro Rippey Demons for 3 seasons and even hit 17 home runs one year. When Merkin noticed that Walt Anderson Field was in sad shape, he responded immediately. Weeds had overcome the infield and the pitcher's mound had washed away. Mel befriended a local man, Merrill Jackson, who just so happened to live across the street from the ballpark, and the two spent a few hours a day, almost every day they could for 5 years, according to his historical overview, Welcome to Rippey. It was Mel's vision to have baseball played here again and to turn his field into a showcase. Judging by my experience last weekend, Walt Anderson Field in Rippey, Iowa is indeed a showcase. It even has bleachers with a roof behind home plate and a nearby concession stand. There's plenty of parking. The first thing you notice about the field itself is the short distance down the right field line. The 266-foot corner in that part of the ballpark provides an inviting target, especially for left-handed hitters. One Urbandale Jayhawk, I think it was junior Troy Rudin, sent a ball over the fence down the right field line. The short distance reminds me of old Yankee Stadium. I wonder how many home runs left-handed hitting Ted Williams would have hit in Yankee Stadium if he had played for the Yankees instead of the Boston Red Sox. The right field fence parallels a street, giving motorists a chance to catch a glimpse of a game. dead center field is 370 feet away from home plate. It's 329 feet from home plate to the left field corner. For comparison, the distance at Principal Park in Des Moines is 335 feet down the left field, and the right field lines and 400 feet to straightaway center field. I've been to enough baseball games in my life to know how the PA announcer introduces hitters and notes pitching changes. These were high school games, however, so I wasn't familiar with the players' names when I got the lineups from the Urbandale and Webster City coaches. If Valley High School was playing, I probably would have been more familiar with the names because I've seen some Valley athletic events. Before the first game started at noon, one male, maybe a parent, let me know how to pronounce Aiden Hernachek's last name. When I got up to the PA booth, I wrote down HERN-E-CHEK on Webster City's roster. The Lynx had 16 players on the roster. The Jayhawks roster, however, included 24 players, which provided more opportunity to mispronounce names. Unlike the major leagues, the coaches and umpires don't inform the PA announcer of personnel changes on the field, in the 2 games Saturday at least. So I really had to pay attention to who was batting, pitching, and pinch running. Midway through the first game, Urbandale made several changes, which I noted on its lineup sheet. Only 3 Jayhawk starters, Luke Corrado, Xander Gutman, and Patrick Wilbanks, played the entire first game, according to my records. When the first game ended, I had a chance to promote my book and grab another hot dog. When I was at the concession stand, a former Central Iowa resident came up to me and said he'd like to buy one of my books. He explained he had worked at Drake University in Des Moines before moving to Denver, Colorado for another college job. Now retired, he comes back to Iowa periodically to see his grandchildren. I was intrigued when he said he grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and remembers going to a few Dodger games at Ebbets Field before the team moved to Los Angeles in 1958. His mother, he added, had even more memories of attending Dodgers games at Ebbets Field. Now let's take a break. To listen to my other podcasts with such guests as Sam Burnaby and Randy Wayhope, the Iowa Cubs, and former major leaguers Jim Marshall, Byron Brown, and Rich Nye, go to my Pug Fireball and Company podcast on YouTube. You can also get my latest book, Pug Fireball and Company, 116 Years of Professional Baseball in Des Moines, Iowa, by going to pugfireballandcompany.com. It's available at several bookstores in central Iowa, too. By the way, the fall 2024 edition of the Annals of Iowa has a nice review of my latest book. Now let's go back to my Rippey baseball experience. I had more responsibilities at the start of the second game. With the script provided by Tommy, I introduced the teams and players and played the national anthem via YouTube. As we were getting ready for the second game, Tommy and I huddled around my phone. I found 3 versions of the anthem on YouTube by doing a search on Google. He didn't care for the first version, so we decided to go with the second, a more traditional version. When I got up to the PA booth, I held my phone up to the microphone and played the YouTube version of the anthem. How's that for improvising? Scoreboard operator Jerry Lawrence kept me company throughout the 3.5 hours of baseball in the historic field. During the few lulls in the action, we reminisced about our favorite players when we were growing up and how the game has changed over the years, especially in the pitching department. At one point, he said he had an easier job than I did. Maybe so. He still had to keep track of how many runners crossed the plate for each team in the middle of base hits, errors, walks, and hit batters. I'll admit it got challenging when the teams started making several substitutions with players I had never seen before. All in all, I believe I did an adequate job for the first time as a baseball PA announcer. I even got a compliment from the Urbandale side after the second game. The most famous PA announcer in my lifetime was Pat Pieper, who served in that role for the Chicago Cubs from 1916 to 1974. In the early years, he used a 14-pound megaphone to make announcements. The job got easier when electronic PA systems came into play in 1932. Before, I'd have to run up and down the foul lines with my megaphone to make any kind of announcement, he said. On some of those hot Wrigley Field days, I lose 6 or 8 pounds, according to John Huszar in the Chicago Tribune, October 23, 1974. I can still see him announcing the starting lineups while standing on the field before Cubs games in the 1950s. He would always say, "Attention, attention please. Have your pencils and scorecards ready for the correct lineups for today's ball game." Once again, that's according to Huszar in the Chicago Tribune, October 23, 1974. Pieper was born February 1886 in Hanover, Germany, and emigrated to Denver, Colorado in 1904 with his family. At the age of 17, he headed to Chicago and got a job as a popcorn and peanut vendor for the Cubs at Westside Park in Chicago. Pieper talked then-owner Charles Wiegman into hiring him as the PA announcer in 1916 after the Chicago Whales of the Federal League folded and vacated Wiegman Park, which became Wrigley Field 10 years later. And get this, Pieper missed only 16 home games during his 59 years with the Cubs. In fact, he did not miss a home game after 1923. As a result, he witnessed several memorable moments in franchise history, including a 9-inning double no-hitter in 1917, purported called shot in the 1932 World Series, and Gabby Hartnett's homer in the Gloman in 1938. In 1974, Huszar said Hartnett's memorable blast against the Pittsburgh Pirates as darkness was descending on Wrigley Field had to be Pieper's most cherished moment. I have always attempted to handle my job with dignity, but when I saw Gabby's hit soaring on its way over the left field fence, I picked up the bags of baseballs and ran to meet him, Pieper said years later. The Cubs honored Pieper on September 22, 1940, upon his 25 years as the field announcer, and the Old Timers Baseball Association featured him on September 13, 1953, when he was 67 years old. The latter occasion came 4 days before Ernie Banks became the first black to play for the Cubs. The Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, recorded Pieper's voice in 1966. He married Karen Marie Jorgensen in 1918. The couple had no children. He died on October 22, 1974, after being admitted to American Hospital suffering from acute jaundice. He was inducted in the Cubs Walk of Fame in 1966, which was later renamed the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. While I'll never reach the stature of Pat Pieper, at least I added the role of baseball public address announcer to my resume in retirement. I might even do it again if asked. Don't forget, the Iowa Cubs open a 6-game homestand against the Louisville Bats Tuesday night at Principal Park. The Bats are the AAA affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds. Good day, everyone, and thanks for joining me on this podcast.